I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Raton City Commission to order on Tuesday, March 24th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Could we have a roll call, please, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Mayor Chatterley.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield.
Here.
Commissioner Schuster.
Present.
Commissioner Campbell.
Present.
And Commissioner Hoger.
Here.
Will you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on to item 4. Our next regular commission meeting will be April 14th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Notice that all city offices will be closed Friday, April 3rd in honor of Good Friday. And we have a proclamation tonight recognizing HR Director Cindy Parker's retirement and years of service with the city of Raton. Proclamation honoring the retirement of Miss Cindy Parker, April 1st, 2026. Whereas Cindy Parker has faithfully served the city of Raton and its residents for 19 years, bringing professionalism, integrity, and a heart for public service to her work each day. And whereas Cindy Parker began her career in the banking industry, developing a strong foundation in finance, customer service, and operational excellence that she carried into municipal service. And whereas over the course of her city tenure, she served with distinction as Human Resources Director and Payroll Clerk, ensuring fair, compliant, and compassionate HR practices, safeguarding the accuracy and timeliness of payroll for city employees, and supporting a workplace culture grounded in respect and trust. And whereas Cindy Parker was recognized for her leadership in supporting service members and military families through Employers' Support of the Guard and Reserves, ESGR, receiving the Above and Beyond Award for her advocacy of Guard and Reserve employees and her commitment to best-in-class employer practices. And whereas beyond her official duties, Cindy invested hours of community service, volunteering her time and talents to initiatives that strengthen the city of Raton and uplift its people. And whereas Cindy's dedication, institutional knowledge, and unfailing reliability have left a lasting positive impact on the city organization and the community it serves. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, do I, Lori Chatterley, Mayor of the City of Raton, New Mexico, on behalf of the Raton City Commission, hereby express our profound appreciation to Cindy Parker for 19 years of honorable and dedicated service to the people of Raton as Human Resources Director and Payroll Clerk, and extend to her its heartfelt gratitude and best wishes for continued success and fulfillment in all future endeavors. In witness thereof, it has my sign and seal. Cindy. Moving on to item 5, committee reports from commission. Commissioner Hoger.
I represented Colfax County at the Sequential Intercept Model Mapping and Prioritization Workshop for Behavioral Health, held in Taos on March 11 through 13. Attendees developed priorities for distribution of funding under the Behavioral Health Reform and Investment Act, Senate Bill 3. The regional leadership team will pull together information from the session and submit a funding request to the state. Region 8 includes Taos, Colfax, and Union counties. Colfax and Union were underrepresented, but we advocated strongly for funding in our communities. On March 14th, let's skip ahead. On March 17th, I attended the Library Advisory Board, where we discussed issues with new book vendors, the status of the GO bond, including an upcoming makerspace, and a grant received from Science Across America. On March 18th, I attended the Colfax County Health Council meeting, where we voted to use some of our funding for extracurricular youth activities, and I was elected chair of the council. On March 24th, today, I attended the health literacy brunch at the convention center, and I presented a talk about childhood vaccination.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Campbell?
Yes, on March 12th, I attended a trip to the Hickory's Tribal Council in Peñasco at the Hickory's Pueblo. We discussed the casino project and the goals that the tribal leaders had. Also toured and discussed the Hickory's history and the Pueblo Interpretive Center, which provided a lot of valuable information as we went through their history of where they've gone from virtually the largest tribe to the smallest tribe currently. We discussed the documentation that would be required for the Bureau of Indian Affairs application, and also set up a weekly progress meeting to get together and actually keep the project goals moving forward. I also participated in a 2-day event with the Dam Safety Bureau and our engineer on the Lake Maloya Dam project. It was called the Quantitative Risk Analysis Workshop, which is conducted by the Dam Safety Bureau of the State Engineer's Office on March 17th and 18th. Goes through the process of analyzing the issues with a 1946 earthen dam and what the priorities are, and the first steps is moving forward with efforts on that. We do have some Water Trust Board funding that we're continuing to work through to where hopefully we would plan a project that would come in the near future. Last night on the 23rd, I attended the RPS monthly meeting. Have the normal approval of monthly financial, statistical information and transfer. Also had a resolution, changing the bank cards as Mr. Piancino is nearing retirement after many years of dedicated service. Heard the manager's report on the pole replacement outage project and how well that went. Also had a lengthy discussion on Burrow Canyon issues and on the Jenbacher generation unit. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schuster?
Yes, I also visited with Commissioner the Hickory's Pueblo on March 12th. We had a beautiful tour of their Pueblo, and the exciting part that he didn't mention was a tour of their cultural center. I mean, he mentioned quite a lot of everything we talked about, so. But they also showed us the cultural center they're putting together, which I think is really exciting, and discussed how they plan to do a cultural center here along with the casino. There are other things that are in their plans that I believe are going to be really beneficial to the area. On the 17th, there was a water board meeting, and the Mayor Pro Tem will provide additional highlights. The main thing we talked about was the filter plant and the Cimarron system. On the 18th, there was an educational meeting with Ann Tice and all the committee members. We talked about needs of education progressing into the future and what we can actually logistically accomplish here in Raton and how to get started on where to move forward. We definitely need some higher education, but trades training is a big one that are needed for the area. Also on the 18th was the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board. A report there included a report on the Cowboy Ball by the Colfax County Fair Association, the upcoming visitors guide that's in the process of being created right now. Beautification Coalition that's basically putting up the hanging plants and the flower pots maintained throughout the city that I think everybody appreciates. It's a really, really good thing to happen. CCI reported on the Google Ads and media management. And ongoing in my work has recently been investigating the concerns of the concerned citizens regarding the it's not a data center, but it is a what's it called?
Oh, the fiber optic.
Fiber optics center, and what we can logistically do. So the main thing I think we have to address, looking at the ordinances we have, The main thing we have to address and update is our sound ordinance, and we can kind of delineate different things, and I did get a good example of what we can do for sound ordinance that fits in that other areas that have these types of facilities in their region. Obviously, what's going on with the Jupiter project, that's in court, that has a lot to do with the air quality, and we really can't proceed until we know what they're gonna do. That will affect what our ability is on affecting air quality. But from the research that I've been able to do with environmental people in Colorado is generally the standards put out by the EPA, which the states have adopted, should be adequate and should be able to keep that cloud of pollution from hanging over the town of Raton. So, like I said, we'll have to kind of wait on that one, but the one we can move forward with, I believe, is sound. And that's all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield.
I attended the water board meeting with Commissioner Schuster on the 13th of March. Due to water quality issues, we're presently drawing off the Eagle Nest Lake. Also, we reached a performance agreement with the communications company for the pumping system from Eagle Nest to Raton. Filter plant for the month of February produced about 18.8 million gallons. On the 16th of March, they'll begin sending reclaimed water to the schools, the park, and the golf course. Discussed the lease issue with the Kaplan property, and that was it for the water board. MCMC, I attended their PFAC meeting on the 23rd. They had discussed their enhanced telehealth program, doctor recruitment. Heard a presentation from Dr. Tony Salazar. He's the medical director about improvements to the ER and also improved patient hospital communications. On the 19th, I attended the Finance Committee. Ms. Antonucci will bring us up to date on that. Also on the 19th, the city manager and I attended the zoning board meeting. And that's it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. As for myself, on March 1st through 5th, I attended the Ports to Plains Alliance Washington, D.C. fly-in. The other attendee from New Mexico was, sorry, my phone is fighting me here. The other attendee from New Mexico was Union County Commissioner Justin Bennett. Many others came from all 9 states along the Ports to Plains trade corridor. Monday was our board meeting and dinner. Tuesday and Wednesday, I was able to meet with staff from Senator Heinrich and Senator Lujan's offices. And Representative Ledger Fernandez's staff took Commissioner Bennett and I over to the Capitol to speak with her, which was very nice. She almost always makes time to meet us in person when we're there. I started the visits by thanking the offices for all the Ports to Plains planning monies that were awarded on behalf of planning for Raton that will go through NMDOT. For the Alliance as a whole, our talking points in Washington, D.C. were related to proposing a multi-state funding interstate highways formula program as part of the next federal surface transportation reauthorization bill. Very exciting stuff with dedicated funding. We were proposing that funding would be distributed to state DOTs based on the number of unconstructed future interstates that have been designated. We have 91 other alliances and supporters for this project, and we're hoping to get some traction there so that we can get formula funding going for all states who have future highways designated to get those constructed and planned out. We would also designate some funding within that for people who feel like they do need interstate upgrades and would have feasibility money too, feasibility study money for that. And states would have the flexibility to determine their priorities for their development. Let's see, the Alliance, the Ports to Plains Alliance will be submitting a community funding request for future I-27 planning monies for the small towns basically between Clayton and Raton. Now that we kind of have money earmarked for Clayton and Raton, we're looking at helping those other ones have planning out money that would also go to NMDOT, and the city of Raton did submit letters of support for that. Also, before I flew out on Thursday, I was able to meet with the Department of Interior Indian Affairs Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary Janelle Broderick and Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy and Economic Development Kenneth Belmard. I was very fortunate to have such a last-minute meeting request accepted, partially due to the help from Representative Ledger Fernandez's office. I did deliver a letter on behalf of the Picaris Pueblo and spoke with Janelle and Ken about the potential casino gaming project and potentially cultural center. The trip was very productive and renewed the city's relationship with our federal delegation, and I made a lot of new connections in the 9 states across the corridor. It's not just elected officials, there's also lots of different engineering companies, counties, all kinds of economic developers and things in the 9 states, so that was good. I attended the North Central New Mexico Economic Development District Executive Committee and New Mexico CARES Board meeting on February 26th on Zoom. For New Mexico CARES, we discussed if North Central could be an admin for funding with well testing. There's a big concern not in our area, but in the whole district area for the Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire and flood runoff with testing wells for contamination from the fire retardant chemicals. So they were trying to find a good admin to help with that grant funding to get that testing done. The North Central Board had an executive session to discuss personnel. In open session, we discussed legislation, finances, and the non-metro area agency on aging. On March 5th and 23rd, I attended the RPS board meetings. On March 5th, we approved the emergency procurement for the pole replacements that Commissioner Campbell mentioned that were repaired during the emergency power outage. 2 crews were brought on so that both poles could be replaced at once, limiting the time to 1 outage. I will note that it was reported that the work was completed by midnight, but the transmission line company didn't return to store power for 2 more hours. So RPS is looking into getting our own local certification to be able to do that, because that was very frustrating because we really wanted to have the power off as short as possible. We don't want those delays to be an issue. This image, which I will pass around, shows the pole that was hollow there and that dire nature of why that was such an emergency. It was hollow up to about 4 feet off the ground, and this was over by the soccer field. So a very dangerous area with kids. Thank goodness. I feel like it was a huge blessing that they got that pole tested and started with those big poles. And they're going to be continuing to test all poles around. Those were some of the major, larger poles on the line. I commend RPS for acting on this emergency as quickly as possible and for the tireless work of our crews in the field and the office staff answering calls and questions. And just another request for everyone in town to slow down and be a little kinder when you have questions about things. We can all do that. So I really appreciate their staff coming to task on that. They worked very hard. There was very little sleep at RPS for a time. There have been some questions about why we couldn't run our city generator and have rolling power outages instead. So right now, our city generator is not able to work in island mode. That means that it can't work standalone. Basically, it works to add existing power to power already going, but it takes special engineering and different things to have that work in island mode. So we are looking at steps to what it would take to have that as a standalone emergency backup. Even then, it can't carry the whole town at once. So there are a lot of different projects that RPS is looking at, and that is one of them. And that is, we've talked about, the idea of emergencies and trying to have a plan there. So there are other plans, but that's just, there's a lot of misinformation maybe out there about that. So there's what's going on. On the March 18th meeting, as Commissioner Campbell mentioned, we discussed the usual statistical and financial information. It was reported that solar met 1.1% of the demand in February. They're working on the warehouse to fix foundational issues. We looked at data comparing our electricity rates with similar communities. We hear a lot of complaints about our electricity rates, and so we're going to be presenting that data in a better form, hopefully next month for the public on some big boards so you can look at exactly where our rates are. They are very competitive. We also discussed having a texting service. So a couple of us recommended maybe partnering with the city and Waterworks to have some kind of texting service that we can send out information to anyone who wants to sign up about outages and things like that. So we do have the county has that emergency system you can sign up for. If you haven't signed up, get on their website and sign up for that. But it'd be great to have something like text, I think it's TextGov or something like that, where we can have that service. So we'll look into that. We also discussed steps toward priority projects and increasing energy demand requests. As a side note, not on my boards, I met with Interim City Manager Sagata and Ann Tice from Raton Media Works regarding the creation of a series of civic literacy videos to better explain to the public about city funding, city projects, government, and other topics that would help explain how cities work, because it's very different from other beasts. And so I feel like a series of short videos might be helpful. So we're going to be working on that project, and hopefully we will all be involved in that. I'm not going to volunteer anyone else, but if you want to be involved, let me know, and we'll get some stuff. We want to make them kind of yes, be a star on our website, on the city website. I would like to make them somewhat engaging and short, so that it can, I mean, especially for our younger generation, I think it'd be a great tool for the classroom. I know my daughter is a doom scroller. Sorry, Tess. So it has to, keep the attention a little bit. So hoping for that, and I said one of the topics could be, why do I have a pothole but we have a pickleball court? Because it's very different beasts of how funding works. So I think that will be hopefully well received by the community when we're able to get that done over the next couple months. We're going to get started. And those are my reports. So we will move on. We'll move on to item 6, items from citizens present. I'm going to give my little spiel again. And I'm going to probably do this every meeting, as this is another thing where people don't always understand exactly what city commission meetings are. So first of all, welcome everyone who's here, also online. Glad to have you. I'm just going to explain a few ground rules for items from citizens present. First, a commission meeting is an open meeting, which means the public may attend and observe. However, it isn't like Facebook or a coffee shop. It's a business meeting of the city commission. And as such, public comment is a privilege and not a right. It is not required under law, but we do like to include it on our regular meeting agendas. Second, it's not a time for a back and forth conversation. It's not a Q&A. It's not question answer. It's a time for public comment. As I've stated at previous meetings, our contact information is right outside on the wall by the city desk. It's also on the website. You can contact us or the city manager directly if you're looking for a conversation. Third, anyone wishing to speak in the meeting, from commissioners to members of the public, per rules of order, must individually be recognized by the meeting chair, which is myself. Fourth, cheering, clapping, jeering, side comments, or other interruptions are not appropriate in the business meeting. So if this is violated, we will ask you to leave the meeting. Fifth, all comments must be made from the podium to the commission. If backs are turned or comments are made to the rest from the other places in the room, you'll be asked to leave. We really want you to have up at the podium. Sixth, I do not tolerate derogatory or profane remarks. If you want to throw insults, this is not your place. Civil behavior is very much appreciated. And finally, you must state your name first, or your first and last name, before you speak for our record. And if you haven't signed in, we do invite you to sign in as well. You can do that after the meeting or whenever you'd like. Each speaker will have approximately 2 minutes. If you're here in a group, we ask you to consolidate to 2 to 3 people. And I will allow around 15 minutes tonight for public comment. I will now open the floor to items from citizens present, and just a reminder to state your name for the record and come up to the front.
My name is Natasha Martinez. I am the Executive Director for Northern Regional Housing, and I am going around the state in all of my counties to introduce myself to all of our newly elected officials. And I can tell you, I absolutely love your spiel because it is not just at this commission meeting. Madam Mayor, commissioners, thank you so much for your time. I've been in this position for a little over a year now, and I am working with the citizens of Raton. We do have units here in Raton. We also have Section 8 vouchers, which I don't think a lot of people know about. So if you are a landlord that would like to rent to any low-income family, please let us know, because we do have only 3 vouchers that are issued within all of Colfax County. So, I do see like empty houses out there. If you own houses and you want to do that, Housing New Mexico also has an incentive program that helps these houses get up to the suitable nature so that they could be so that they can be housed for our tenants. It's a great program. I just wanted to come in and put a face to all of what Northern is now and just introduce myself. I will give my cards to the city clerk if she doesn't mind to hand them out to the mayor and the commissioners, and I'm open to emails, calls, whatever you guys think, and meeting with your city manager whenever he feels. And that video, I have some staff that would be amazing to show them how housing works as well, if you guys would like to include us in that as well, because that sounds like a great idea. Because our waiting list, we do issue way more applications than we receive. So I know that there's families that need help. It might just be a matter of not knowing how to get the help. So I know that that's a problem. I'm a public servant just like all of you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Thank
Natasha.
you.
Appreciate it.
Commissioners, Madam Mayor, and please put me on the clock because I have been accused of being long-winded.
Will you remind us of your name, sir?
Mayor Sagata, it has been brought to my attention that...
I'm sorry, sir, what is your name again?
I'm sorry, my apologies. Max Holland.
I heard
You-
that. I was pretty sure he wasn't you.
It's not like I'm a stranger here.
Thank you.
It's been brought to my attention that Atarex, a Colorado LLC, has not yet registered in the state of New Mexico, which is a requirement for doing business as an LLC in our state. Now, they have entered into a contract, although not illegal, as the legal people like to say, that's not well favored. And although it would not necessarily be a detriment if we ended up in court for whatever reason to the city of Raton, it could very well be to Atarex. I am doubly concerned by the fact that they were only in business for barely 2 months when we signed a contract with them for the MOU. And now, over a month later, they have yet to register. It only cost $100 in an application at the Secretary of State's office and whatever it costs to hire an agent to represent them in the Secretary of State. So I do ask that, but by the way, I did put in a phone call to the city attorney to get his view. Maybe things had changed since my most recent information was received. But I have yet to be able to meet up with Mr. Florsheim. So I do want the commission to be aware of these things if they're not already. I hope you guys were aware of this before you actually took the vote. And maybe light a fire under them if they're really going to do business in the state of New Mexico and with the city of Raton, that they do get their ducks in a row. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right, I'm slow
That's okay.
in walking, but not in thinking, so. My name is Jenny Velarde. It's really an honor to speak to you all tonight. I did come up with some thank yous that I wanted to share. Am I able to do that outside of my time or no?
You want to, I'll give you an extra minute. How about that?
You're so sweet. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Sagata, I want to say thank you so much for sharing about your family history of the mines. It's especially exciting to me because my family worked in the mines too, so that means our kin were shoulder to shoulder. And in fact, I had a cousin that worked for 30 years in the mine, and he became the first Hispanic foreman. So thank you for sharing. Ms. Schuster, I want to thank you so much for the way that you deeply listen. It's very clear that you're a critical thinker and you're incredibly empathetic, and I'm a clinical psychotherapist, so I look for that stuff, and I definitely see it off of you, so thank you. Madam Mayor, I want to thank you so much for decorum. I believe in it so strongly. Civility, couth. I appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Honeyfield, I am very impressed with how you spoke so freely about your wife. There are so many Raton love stories, and I hear about them all the time from people who've lived here forever to people who've just recently moved here. So thank you for representing that part of our population. Mr. Campbell, if you are the person responsible for what's in that picture, we all owe you a parade because I have lived all over this country. I spent 10 years in Brooklyn, New York. I spent 7 years on the West Coast. I owned a 40-acre ranch in Estancia, New Mexico, and I was born in Denver. And I've never been able to drink out of the tap the way that I can here in Raton. So you're a legend. Thank you for what you've done. And Ms. Hoger, I brought a Sharpie here tonight. I used to work in Los Angeles in the most prominent photography studio, one of the most prominent studios in all of the world. And I worked with A-listers every single day. And I never once wanted an autograph from anybody, but I want an autograph from you tonight. So if you're willing, I'm going to get that from you. All right. Sorry to talk like an auctioneer. Okay. Do we remember the year 2016? It feels like 2 seconds ago. Here's why I'm asking that. I love science. I'm a fastidious researcher. And predictive research is now showing that data centers and their subsets, their offshoots, have a shelf life. And that shelf life is looking to be around 10 years. And here is why this is quite meaningful to us. I want us to think about the history of computer science. So as we all know, the first computers, which are referred to as first-generation computers, were these massive, colossal beasts that were in buildings and warehouses, and they could do basically like computation akin to a basic calculator. Jump to third-generation computers, and all of a sudden, we've got this neat little tidy unit that can sit on a desk in front of us in our own houses. Who knows the difference in time between those two generations, first and third? It was 9 years. 9 years. So that is obviously the breakneck speed in which technology moves. And what I'm afraid of is, right now there are about 4,000 data centers and affiliates in what we're called an advanced digital hub infrastructure project, which is very creative. But there are 4,000 of us in our country right now. And what I am afraid of is we are going to be first generation AI data centers. We are pretty soon going to be amongst the defunct and obsolete and sitting and rotting underneath the high desert sun. So just something to think about when we're making our votes.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak for items from citizens present?
We talk about finances, so it's not going to be very interesting, but my name is Caleb Patterson, and I am opposed to the data center being built here in Raton. To start, my credentials. I have an associate's in mathematics, having taken what was meant to be a bachelor's degree before the cost of university became unreasonably high. I was going to a career in financing, financial advisory, accounting, and in classes including economics, microeconomics, macroeconomics, and calculus 3. Now to the matter at hand. I have three resources I've used for my research: a 10-year financial model from the website eFinancial Models on a 1 megawatt data center, information on Virginia's largest data center in the US, and simple math to scale the proposal of both data centers to Raton's proposed center based on power consumption. My point is to show the difference between what data centers will say and what they will do. Employment: a small data center promises 18 jobs, half of which pay less than $40,000. A giant data center, which is about 1,500 times larger than what is being proposed here, scaled down to Raton size, only suggests about 8 jobs would be here. Now, while that data center here might provide, the Raton data center might provide more jobs, this is more of a way of showing that the bigger data centers are a lot more efficient. And so when the numbers come out with a lot of this, we're already looking at what could be best case scenario. Gross profit from a lot of these usually is promised at $230 million for Raton size. The reality is closer to $6 million in gross profit before taxes and loan payments. Taxes, they promise about $21 million, but in reality, taxes tend to be closer to $500,000 to negative $500,000 when it comes down to their economic cost and input. Profit, it's not good.
I'll give you, since you haven't speak, I'll give you another minute to finish your comments. Go ahead.
I do appreciate it. Profit, now the loans of these companies are excessive, mostly paying for computers, mostly to NVIDIA. The promise is that after 10 years that the data center would pay off its estimated $400 million loan needed to build in Raton, possibly even make an additional $1.9 billion of what they say, though the reality is they would probably make only $61 million in a 10-year period, and that is nowhere close to the $400 million that it might take to propose it. If you don't believe me, the finances of the largest data center cause a pattern of the failures of what they do. Well, the data center in Virginia, which is the largest, made $9.1 billion. They were supposed to make $3.4 billion. Even based on the tax promise of $1.5 billion, they instead lost $1 billion. They underdelivered by half to a quarter of what they promised, and the forecasts they predicted are kind of delusional, as they expect to make $1 trillion after 10 years.
Thank you for your comments.
No problem. Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak? Okay, we will move on then from item 7, action items, public hearings, ordinances, resolutions, etc. Item A, deliberate and act on approval of the March 10th, 2026 regular meeting minutes. Were there any amendments, changes, corrections to the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the March 10th, 2026 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
A motion is second to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor, please vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, discussion City of Raton fiscal year 27 interim budget preparation guidelines. Mr. Scotta.
Madam Mayor and Commission, I am going to turn this over to Ms. Michael-Ann Antonucci. She's going to give you some guidelines of that for the upcoming budget, and we'll be scheduling workshops and such as we move along. Michael.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Our city clerk has provided you with a copy of something that I've prepared for our preliminary discussions this evening. It's really kind of outlining our process. One of the most important projects that we undertake each year is the preparation of the annual budget. It is the foundation and the cornerstone for the management of our resources and also the plan for the delivery of services. Through careful assessment of our operations, we can assure the citizens of Raton that we are providing the basic services they need in the most effective and responsible way possible. As such, the budget document is prepared to provide varying levels of detail for policy, financial, personnel, and project information. The City of Raton is a full-service municipality governed by the provisions of the New Mexico state law and municipal codes. I've cited for you the statutory reference, NMSA 6-6-2, which defines the powers and duties of the local government division in relation to local public bodies. This section of law requires each local public body to furnish and file with LGD a proposed budget for the next fiscal year on or before June 1st. We refer to that as our interim budget. Submission extensions cannot be granted. So the deadline is midnight by June 1st. The local government division then examines the interim budget, and then they will provide us an approval no later than July 1st, and then we'll operate on the interim budget until we submit our final budget, which is due by July 31st. That gives us time to close out the fiscal year, calculate our ending cash balances, which will roll forward and become the beginning cash as of July 1st. Once the budget is approved by Department of Finance, Local Government Division, as you know, we can only make changes to the budget through our formal budget adjustment resolutions. And so we typically try to do, at least one a month or more. I've outlined for you the budget preparation process. There are 4 basic stages, which include preparation, approval, execution, and review, which is our annual audit. The annual budget is developed over a 5-month period, generally beginning in March and ending in July. Some of the discussions that we're currently having are just trying to come up with revenue projections, personnel estimates. As you know, probably over 70% of our general fund budget is salaries and benefits. That doesn't leave a lot for the rest of the operational expenses. We do have several different governmental funds, the general operating, our special revenue funds, debt service, capital projects, and then we also have our business type funds, the enterprise fund for solid waste, and then we also have some other funds called trust and agency funds, probably like where we put the donations from fireworks and our gross receipts transfer to the waterworks. Budget worksheets and the personnel schedules soon will be distributed to our department heads for review, and that's kind of where we'll sit down, the city manager and myself, with each department head and kind of try to evaluate what their priorities and needs are. We will discuss the needs versus the wants. So we do kind of let them put together a wish list, but once we develop the budget, sometimes trying to balance it can be difficult, and so that's why we try to prioritize the needs. The commission will recall in the past few years, we have utilized reserves for one-time capital purchases. So, that's something that we can look at again this year. And I had noted there the only exception would be if the commission wishes to appropriate funds from our reserve for those one-time capital purchases. Our department heads will also be asked to attend any scheduled budget workshops that we have, and then throughout the 5-month process we will have a couple public hearings as well, so we'll gather public input. Under our revenue projections, generally every year we recommend very conservatively our GRT estimates. We really are going to propose a flat revenue budget this year due to slightly less construction projected in FY27. However, we will see recurring GRT from retail sales from the Maverick gas station, which has only been open for about 3-4 months. The City of Raton gross receipts has seen a positive impact from the online sales. We talk about that a lot, which does continue to remain strong due to a reduced number of certain types of retail that we have in Raton. This trend is anticipated to continue. City staff, we are working to prepare a GRT chart for the commission by industry classification. This is something we talked about at our financial advisory board meeting, so that you can kind of see what sectors are bringing in the most gross receipts for our community. I did want to point out that effective July 1st, New Mexico Tax and Revenue will begin phasing out the administrative fee imposed on municipalities. I initially, until I looked at the legislation again, thought that it was all going away effective July 1st, but they're going to slowly phase it out from 3% to 2% beginning July 1st, and then in the following fiscal year it'll drop to 1%. So, we will see some additional cash added to the general fund as a result of this. All general fund revenue sources are estimated to stay relatively the same as of FY26. I think I meant to say FY27. Overall, FY27 will be a tight budget. However, it is anticipated that FY28 will be more promising due to the construction of the I-25 interchange, and then also hopefully the school will be under construction by the next fiscal year as well. The City of Raton is projecting a positive impact in GRT. This is probably not an all-inclusive list. It was just kind of something that we started jotting down the projects that we know that will potentially occur during this fiscal year. Last year, we had about 18 million in construction, and next fiscal year, we're probably looking at a little bit closer to 11 million. So a little bit lower estimate, but I think we'll probably continue to add to that list before we get to the final budget. Under the expenses, these are just kind of some of the known items. As of today, all union positions will increase per the terms of their union contracts. The city is currently negotiating with our police union. It was announced recently that Colfax County has adopted pay increases, which we will be evaluating those so that the city can remain competitive, but that could come at a significant cost. So we're going to definitely take that into consideration with some of our personnel decisions. The city is currently proposing a 3 to 4% increase for non-union full-time positions, but we will reevaluate prior to submitting the final budget. Ongoing increase in health insurance coverage for our employees definitely makes it difficult to maintain those competitive wages. Staffing levels for police and fire will be reviewed due to the expiration of both recruitment grants at the end of the fiscal year. That's something that we've kind of talked about, knowing that those, we were notified recently that there will not be the opportunity to apply for those grants again. So I was a little disappointed to hear that. Our state of New Mexico health insurance coverage, it is undergoing a major overhaul, and the premium increases will take effect July 1st. Premium, the preliminary rates that we've received from the Healthcare Authority for the basic HMO plans seem to be comparable to our current rates. So, I mean, employees will have that option. There will be some new options. The PPO plans will increase closer to 15%. So any employee that chooses that would see a significant cost increase. But they will also start offering a high deductible PPO plan, and that would be about 40% less than the cost of the basic PPO. However, I would caution employees that could be somewhat risky unless you have probably significant savings to cover those deductibles. Open enrollment for all city employees will begin April 1st and end May 1st. So we will be working to get information out to the employees for that enrollment period. New Mexico Self-Insurers Fund, the estimate for FY27 is approximately $53,000 higher than previous year. Now, I do want to say we do break out our premiums with RPS and water, so I'll be looking at that a little bit closer with the actual increases to the city only. It is mainly due to property insurance. It really only looked like it was like $3,000 higher, which isn't a lot. But we have purchased a lot of new vehicles, so we'll see some increase in vehicle premiums. The law enforcement liability is going up again, and also we're seeing a reduction in the workers' comp discount from 75% to 50%. I did notice that our experience modifier went down slightly, so we might realize a little bit of a discount on workers' comp due to that. Our operating fund cash reserves will continue to bear most of the capital needs in the general fund. It is important to safeguard our reserves, ensuring that they are tied only to those one-time expenditures. It is also important to keep in mind that with an increase in grant funding, our general fund is being relied upon to cash flow many of these projects pending reimbursement. And this has put a little bit of a strain on our general fund this year due to a lot of these projects occurring simultaneously. We continue to be financially stable based on guidance and support and a conservative approach by our city commission, so thank you for that. Our department heads also do an outstanding job managing their respective departments, even during times when they are tasked to do more with less funding and staff. I am confident that working together, we can once again submit a balanced budget that meets the needs of the City of Raton and our citizens. So just kind of the brief overview. Later in the meeting, we'll be looking at our February financial reports, and we can probably drill down on some specifics then, but I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Michael. Any comments or questions from the commission? I know we'll be having a lot more conversation about this moving forward. We appreciate the overview very much. Sure.
Thank you.
Item C, deliberate and act on Do It Right Pyro Inc. 2026 fireworks show proposal. Mr. Scotta.
Mayor and Commission, before you have a proposal from Do It Right for our annual fireworks show. The total is $45,468.49. It is up about $7,000 from last year. And mainly due, we're gonna have, looks like $3,000 in additional mortars in that to commemorate the 250th anniversary of our nation. And insurance rates apparently a little bit. We do have Mr. Johnson here if you have any questions, and the city recommends approval.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Scott, how much of a drop in the insurance cost is there if we reduce that liability insurance from 5 to 3 million?
Mr. Honeyfield, we checked with the league, they will not let us drop that.
Right, so we're set at that, okay.
It'd be $3,500. That's basically what it went up this year, Madam Mayor, Commissioner Scott Johnson. The reason for that is, you know, there's accidents that happen throughout everywhere. I've priced insurance all over the country. I've actually had bids that come in at $35,000 and $40,000. So we're very fortunate that it only went up $3,500 this year. So.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any further questions or comments?
I would move to approve the proposal made by Do It Right Pyro Inc. for the 2026 fireworks show.
Second.
Motion and a second for item C, the fireworks show proposal. Any further discussion? I do have one question. Mr. Scotta, is this, what, do we have a line item for this from the general fund, or do you remember how?
Mayor and Commission, we do have line item for this, and last year, I believe, before the meeting, we were talking with Michael and we split it in a couple of line items, areas, but just there is a general line item.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item D, deliberate and act on MOU between the City of Raton and Los Animas County Office of Emergency Management for fire mitigation, watershed protection, and mutual aid. Mr. Sagata.
Mayor and Commission, before you, we have a memorandum of understanding between Los Animas County and the City of Raton in preparation if a fire were to break out, say in the Lake Dorothy area, we would be able to respond right away without having to get permission from Colorado to go in. Currently, the chief is working on agreements, and we'll hope to have it next meeting with Stonewall. The other one slipped my mind, maybe Los Animas County, City of Trinidad itself. I believe that's it. I thought the chief was gonna be here tonight to talk about this, but he ghosted us. But anyway, this allows us, this is something, if you'll recall, during the track fire, we didn't have. And as a result, things burned without us being able to get there. So this is something good. The chief is quite nervous with the conditions this year. There is possibility, according to forecasts, moisture moving in April. We'll see what happens. But this is good work on the chief, good preparation for the upcoming fire season, and the city would recommend it.
Thank you, Mr. Sagata. Any comments or questions?
I guess, go ahead.
I have just a question, not totally to do with this, but just with the topic we're talking about. Is there any potential that if this cycle holds in July, it hasn't gotten any better, that we don't do the fireworks show we talked about earlier? I'm not saying, I mean, it just raises that question. If it gets that bad, would we have to look at something like that?
Madam Mayor and Commission, if you recall, during the 2011 track fire, we did cancel the fireworks.
That's what I was just saying, I mean, if this, I'm definitely hope that's not the case, but it just,
Absolutely.
if this follows up, it makes you run that question, because we are in a really bad cycle right now.
Did you have a?
Yeah, I guess the only question I had, would it be appropriate to require a signature from the leasehold, Colorado Game and Fish?
Mayor and Commissioner Honeyfield, let me check with with the chief. That might be.
Yeah, that was the only thing when I reviewed it, I thought,
That might
well,
be a good idea.
yeah, that, at least they feel like they're included in the loop.
Right.
Bless you.
I agree, Commissioner, or Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield. I think that would be a great addition, an important contact with that. And it looks like it's for a term of 5 years.
Yes.
Which is good. I know we will be, I'm sure we'll be evaluating the situation on the weather and drought and whatnot as we do move into the summer season and looking at those things.
Madam Mayor and Commissioner, if you remember last year, we started off similar, and then the tap turned on in July, so we'll see what happens this year.
Just a side question to this, I guess I would have. Would an agreement like this be appropriate for the easement on the Burrow Canyon line? Since we have, that easement extends into Colorado.
Madam Mayor and Commissioner Honeyfield, let me look into that. This specifically calls out the watershed, so I will get with the chief in the morning and we will see if that's a possibility. The problem being there is you have so many private landowners, you would probably have to make an MOU with each individual landowner. So let me look into that.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions from the commission? Would you like us, city manager, to approve this contingent upon checking if CPW should be added?
Madam Mayor and Commission, that would be my recommendation. If we need to add, then we can always add a signature page. I would maybe we make
Potentially.
a motion to potentially include CPW. Yes.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion.
I would move that we grant the agreement with the possibility of adding another signatory. The RTN SWG 3-35-0033.
Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, I think it's
am
the
I
one
on the
before.
wrong line?
Yeah, you're
I'm
up.
sorry.
Up one line. Up
All
one
right.
line.
Between the City of Raton and Los Animas County Office of Emergency Management for fire mitigation, watershed protection, and mutual aid.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second for item D on the MOU between the City of Raton and Los Animas County for the fire mitigation, water protection, and mutual aid. That would include the potential to add CPW as a signatory. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item E, deliberate and act on FAA grant agreement. And here we go with that big old number. RTN SWG 335-003-032-2026 for reseal resurface taxiway A Phase 1 design. Mr. Sagata.
Madam Mayor and Commission, before you is the Phase 1 design grant application for FFA. This is for the repavement of restructure of taxiway A. Total cost would be $63,433. City share would only be $333 as the feds pick up the majority of the tab. We also have Mr. Welch here to answer any other questions for you. the city would recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Scotta. Does anybody have comments or questions for Mr. Welch? Pretty good deal, except I know it's a lot of paperwork when we have these type of grants. Mr. Welch, did you want to share anything about this project?
Jaden Welch, Director of Engineering for the City of Raton. Mayor, Commission, this is the design work for the resealing of Taxiway A, just a pavement maintenance program. We have it on our capital improvement plan for the airport, budgeted at $500,000, and the current engineer's estimate of probable cost is $315,000. The city's share of design or construction is typically right around that 1% mark. And so if it comes in at their estimate, we would be on the hook for just over $3,000 to complete the project.
When was the last time it was sealed, or do you recall?
I do not know the answer to that, but I do know that it's well in need. We had talked about potentially postponing it until next year, just because we've had some big projects out there recently to bank AIP funds and whatnot. And our consultant advised against it. I walked it with him. Some of the cracks are wide enough for your boot to fit in between them, so.
Mr. Scotta, do you have a comment?
Mayor and Commissioner Honeyfield, I want to say it was around 2008 or 9.
We got our money's worth then.
Yeah, I'm thinking, but we also did another project in 2012. Mr. Phillips isn't here, I gave him the night off, so.
But I was thinking, wasn't that a taxiway extension?
We did do a taxway extension, but that was later, that was after we got the brewery in.
Okay. All right.
We'll check on it and get back to it.
Thank you, Mr. Scotta. Any further comments or questions from the commission?
I would move to approve the FAA grant agreement, number previously stated, for reseal, resurface taxiway A phase 1 design.
I'll second.
I have a motion, a second for item E, the taxiway A Phase 1 design. Any further discussion? All in favor, please vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item F, deliberate and act on Lodgers Tax Advisory Board recommendations. We have the 2026 Raton Visitor Center for Community Innovation, the guide, the Beautification Coalition from Raton Main Street, and the 2026 Visitors Guide ad by Raton Main Street. Mr. Sagata.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, before you are 3 proposals. The Raton Visitor Guide Center for Community Innovation proposal was originally at $48,010. On recommendation from the Lodgers Tax Board, they dropped the Pueblo and Colorado area distribution, so it reduced their request, their ask for that to $2,000. Do you want to go through these one at a time, or do you want to?
Let's do them one at a time. I think that's easier. Any comments or questions on the first item? Recommending $2,000 be awarded for the Visitor's Guide.
And if you had any questions on why they did that, I would turn to Desiree, because I had to step out at that time of the meeting. Or Commissioner Schuster was there as well.
Yeah. I guess my only concern is we're shorting the amount of visitor guides we're getting out there when that's one very important piece of materials. Were there any comments about that?
Yes, they're actually still going to deliver them amongst each other. They're just cutting that cost, and then they're going to deliver them to the same places that they would have delivered them
And
to.
volunteers to distribute.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, the
That's
board
great.
will be.
That's very good, because I don't want to short that distribution, because that's such an essential material that
I
we
had that same concern, but they actually came up with a pretty good plan of,
how to.
the members of the board were saying, I can take some.
Say, I go to Pueblo all the time. I'll take some boxes.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. Further comments or questions from the commission on the first item, the distribution of the visitor guide?
Well, I guess my only concern, looking at the lodger's tax report, we've seen declines in that account every year for the last 4. We've got a major hotel that's now closed, so I think we just need to be really judicious as to how we spend this money, or we're gonna wind up in a situation where we could be upside down in that account.
Which I believe Commissioner, or Mayor Pro Tem, is what happened last year, and we had borrowed from the Economic Development Fund. And I am hoping that my comments previously to get this better planned for the next fiscal year will be taken to heart, and we can look ahead and really look at everything we've been funding, what's reasonable moving forward, because I agree. And I wasn't sure if we are sure that we're gonna be $66,000 in the hole, or if we still have $48,000. I was just a little confused on this report, or how much we have outstanding. I don't know if anyone can answer those questions.
Madam Mayor and Commission, the last discussion Michael and I had, we were projecting currently about $34,000 short, but then we lost the motel. Just went blank travel in. And looking back in past history, that was about an additional $20,000 of lodger's tax. So that puts us at 54, and I'm sure Mike Land has run some other numbers now to get to her projection there, so.
I can tell you, Madam Mayor, that this board is very judicious at whatever, they follow Michael Ann's recommendations and work hard to try to make what they're giving out fit into the budget. So I think they're doing due diligence and trying to make it work.
I appreciate their work. I was thinking, with my comments, city staff sitting down and looking at that and making a budget for this that works better for the next fiscal year with the projections. Thank you for that information. I had one other thought, but I've lost it. Other comments or questions? For just a second. Oh, I was thinking, have we heard back on anything with the potential money for the Gate City Music Festival that would come from a different source?
Madam Mayor and Commission, we have not yet,
anything yet.
but I have not reached out either to my contact. Let me try and do that tomorrow.
Okay, because that would help some of this issue
Absolutely.
quite a bit, because I know that's a cost that will
Absolutely.
split the year, so, thank you. Okay, the first item, the Raton Visitor's Guide for the Center of Community Innovation. Entertain a motion.
I recommend approval of the 2026 Raton Visitors Guide Center for Community Innovation at $2,000. Second.
All right, I have a motion, a second for the Visitor's Guide for the Center for Community Innovation distribution for $2,000. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, next item, Beautification Coalition by Raton Main Street. Mr. Scott.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, the Lodgers Tax Board is recommending that the City Commission award $86.60 to Main Street for the annual Beautification Coalition. $6,660 would come from the contingency fund, the additional $2,000 from the Parks and Recreation Fund. The city would recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Sagata. Any comments or questions from the commission?
There again, I can assure you that there was great discussion on how to keep the budget for this item within the bounds of what's available. And I do believe that the beautification does have a positive effect for the city, so.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I guess my comment would be that we've held this to just downtown, when I think the people that bring their Tesla in to charge it would like a flower to look at. So, I mean, having property at the south end of town where the majority of our grocery receipts tax is produced would be a nice pat on the back to those folks. As I contended last year, I'd still like to see some buy-in from the downtown business owners, the few that we have left there, to assist in maintaining that versus the city bearing the cost of all the maintenance on it. But like I said, I mean, I really think we need to consider all of Main Street, not
I
just.
have to agree, but I think that the budget, a lot of that budget comes from Main Street, and that does have designated areas. I think that's been part of the problem, but I know they put up the banners on Tiger Drive there, so I think, and the Clayton Highway. So I don't think it's been totally forgotten, but I totally agree with you. We need some of that south end to get some more beautification.
Yes.
I agree with you, Mayor Pro Tem. Also, I think one of the concerns is the watering. It is daily watering. It is a heavy burden for our amazing watering Katie to bear. Lisa, that's what Lisa Camp does that. So I agree. And there are potential solutions if we had money to do infrastructure projects that could incorporate watering with a system, but I think that's a very well said remark.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, it just, like I said, if we could get the downtown merchants to buy in on helping pick up some of the maintenance on it and whatnot, to where it's not, to you say it, a daily watering burden.
I do know some of them that I've worked with do water their own
Right.
flowers out front, and
Just not all of them.
Yeah, not all of them.
Exactly.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion on the second item, Beautification Coalition, for $8,660.
Recommend approval of the Beautification Coalition by Raton Main Street for $8,660.
A second.
I have a motion and a second for the Beautification Coalition request. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item, 2026 Visitor Guide Ads by Raton Main Street. Mr. Scott.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board is recommending the City Commission that $21.75 be awarded to Raton Main Street for the 2026 Visitors Guide ads. That would break out as follows. You'd have a full-page ad for the Gate City Music Fest at 108750, and then a full-page ad for the balloon rally as well, also 108750. For your total of $21.75, city would recommend approval.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the commission? I neglected to see that Ms. Valentini is here from Main Street if we have any other questions for that organization.
I would move to approve Lodgers Tax Advisory Board, their recommendation for the City Commission to award $21.75 to Raton Main Street for the 2026 Visitor Guide ads.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the 2026 Visitor Guide ads by Raton Main Street. Any further discussion?
If my math serves me right, then, so that visitor's guide, in reality, we're into it for $4,175.
So we've got the ads and the distribution, and then we also have the contract, Mr. Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, with the Center for Community Innovation, and part of the money that we give them that produces the guide as well.
Yes.
And website stuff that goes along with the guide as well.
Okay.
Yeah, social media, they have a full suite of marketing.
Okay.
Any further questions or comments? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item G, deliberate and act on Planning and Zoning Commission recommendations. We'll take these items individually. The first one, Willow Springs Real Estate and Land Company, LLC, Site Trujillo, for the approval of the final plat subdivision vacation plat vacating alleys and street for location SEC 2T30N R23ENMPM Highway 555 Raton, New Mexico. Mr. Sagata.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, the Raton Planning and Zoning Commission convened at a regular meeting on March 19th to consider subdivision final plat request number 25110 submitted by Willow Springs Real Estate and Land Company, LLC. Following their review of the application and the materials, the commission voted unanimously 3-0 to approve the final plat. As you recall, the preliminary came to this commission, they voted for it. So this is the final steps. The city would recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Sagata. Comments and questions from the commission? I see Mr. Trujillo is here as well if you have a comment or question for him.
Monroe Street does not exist as we know it presently.
Not that I know of. I don't know of any streets that have gone through that through my property ever. So it's just lines on a map.
But it does, as it is platted, it does extend to 555?
As far as that.
Well, because the
Sorry,
plat we've got.
Commissioner Trujillo, do you mind coming up so we can have you on the, online as well? Thank you.
Yeah. Can I come up there, Mark, and look?
Yes, the plat we have does not show it connects to the railroad right away, which Mr. Campbell wants to use that sometime, but the railroad takes them off.
Street. No, there's no other streets that are back there. There's Dillon Creek Road, at the entrance of the plat, or of the property, and then Dillon Creek Road goes back over here, along the railroad.
So Dillon Creek Road is actually in the railroad right away, isn't it?
Correct.
So,
Monroe Street never existed, nor has existed, in my understanding.
so this is landlocked, really?
Yes, everything around me is, they have entrances other ways. So, for instance, the Dixons behind me, they enter from Dillon Creek Road. Parker next to me he enters through his back access there, but he has access through 555. And Gas to the east has their own entrance through 555. So, hope that answers.
Okay. But do you have any kind of an easement arrangement with any of these folks to access this other than the railroad right away?
There is no other easement besides that, besides the Dillon Creek. But notice has been given to all those landowners around if they had any issues with it.
So the railroad, have they given you permission to use their right away?
No, the railroad hasn't. But I don't have any land on it that butts up against the railroad.
But this plat showing that this butts that right away.
No, my property does not butt up against the railroad at all.
That's the plat's flip-flopped.
Oh, okay.
I think they do.
I think they're flip-flopped. That's the other plat.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Good. I don't know why I'm looking at your packet. You know better than I do.
No, Dan did, the plats are flip-flopped.
Okay. Yes, this is mine.
There's, so it's on the wrong, it's stapled to the wrong one.
Got it.
Look at the other plat. And that shows his property that's out on
Yes.
555.
There we go.
And there is but with the railroad and that land that's there, it's been used for a very long time, and then with the recent improvements that they've done on the crossing guards, the railroad has actually put signals and lights to let people know that they're turning on
There's
Dillon Creek Road.
555, you can see, yeah, now it's.
Okay. No, this makes sense. Well, the only reason I bring it up is because I know the railroad is now trying to get control of that. Right, they're not wanting the public using this thing.
But if I have my neighbors behind me, I have no issue
Right.
working with them and having
Okay.
an easement, so.
Mayor and Commission, I would report that no one who was at the meeting is posing an objection.
Right, right.
And just to all those neighbors too, we have, like I put courtesy gates, so they're always welcome to enter my property and whatever, if cattle gets in there or whatever, so.
Right.
Any further comments or questions from the commission on the Willow Springs real estate request for final plat subdivision?
What was your purpose in the subdivision?
If I want to build a barn later or something, I bought the land originally for my kids, so, this costs a lot of money to build a barn and everything else, but so I've been waiting to do that, but if I go build a barn on a right of way or a road at any time, if anyone in the future comes down and says, well, I want to walk through here or do something, it's like I take my barn apart and move it, so that's the only reason. Clean up paperwork, I guess.
Any further comments or questions from the commission? If not, I would entertain a motion on the first item.
I recommend approval of the Willow Springs Real Estate and Land Company LLC for approval of the final plat subdivision of 60 plat vacating alleys and streets for location section 2T and all the other numbers.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the final plat subdivision plat vacating alleys and street for location as originally stated. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much. The next item, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation for Cameron W. Roundtree, Jessica J. Roundtree for the approval of a preliminary plat subdivision for a 4.6167 acre parcel subdivided from 55 acres plus or minus parent parcel for the proposed site of the fiber optic regeneration station. Mr. Sagata.
Madam Mayor and Commission, the Raton Planning and Zoning Commission convened on March 19th to consider this subdivision preliminary plat. It was submitted by Cameron and Jessica Roundtree. Following review, there was some public comment made regarding the use of the property, but that was not the purpose of that meeting. The purpose was to subdivide the plot. It was voted unanimously, 3-0 to approve. The city would recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Sagata. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Deal. And your map is on the other.
That we have the right map.
That's what I was telling now, there's Monroe Street on it.
That size.
So again, this is just simply subdividing property. This is not giving allowable uses or any variances or anything
This
like
is
that.
just subdividing property.
It looks like we're splitting off just under 5 acres from 55 acres.
My understanding.
Both of these. This one.
Yeah, both of those
Yes.
are the,
Both of those.
if there are no comments or questions from the commission, I would entertain a motion for the subdivision.
I did have a question. The manager, does it, I guess I'm looking at the plat, they did lay out an access road to it from the end of, I thought I saw in a different document.
Madam Mayor and Commissioner Campbell, I don't recall that being brought. There was a question about access to it, but I don't recall them talking about laying out the road. We have Mr. Welch here to possibly answer that question.
Go ahead.
Mayor, Commission. The Kearney Avenue right-of-way extends the entire length of this property. And so there are dedicated right-of-ways in place, although it hasn't been developed beyond a certain point. So they do have access.
Yeah, so it is platted and dedicated past market on the rest of the way to the end of the property.
Correct.
Thank you, Jim. Further questions?
I would move we approve the Cameron and Jessica Roundtree application for approval of a preliminary plat subdivision for a 4.6167 acre parcel subdivided from 55 acres plus or minus, parent parcel for the proposed site of the fiber optic regeneration station.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the preliminary plat subdivision for the 4.6167 acre parcel. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please vote by the sign of aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item H, deliberate and act on resolution 2026-17, approval of February 2026 financial reports. Mr. Sagata.
Madam Mayor and Commission, I would turn it over to Ms. Antonucci.
Thank you, Ms. Antonucci.
Mayor and Commission, in your packet, we do have our financial reports that have been reconciled through February 28th, 2026. You'll see that our general fund ending cash balance was close to 3.4 million, and then when we allow for the deduction of the required 1/12th reserve and our $1 million CD, that leaves you an available cash of $1,756,873.40. Your ending cash balances are also shown for the remainder of the other funds. Our March gross receipts tax, which reflects our January business activity, was a very good distribution again. It still leaves us just shy of 7% over our projected general fund budget projection for FY26. I did want to bring to your attention, and you'll see it when we look at the financial report, we had a $217,000 reconciling variance. So we attempted to pay back the Economic Development Fund. You'll recall that we did a temporary transfer for the park improvements, and then also the, there was $22,500 for the LEPF officer retention matching funds that we expend every year. So it got deposited into the general fund in error. So we've since made a correcting transfer to put those funds into the special rep. So I just wanted to call to your attention that that cash balance is overstated on this report by that amount. As we discussed earlier, we are going to start the budget process for FY27. And we are currently evaluating those anticipated projects and also those GRT projections. As we near the end of the third quarter, we are working with the department heads to prepare for the end of the fiscal year. We're currently reviewing grants that will expire as of June 30 so that those invoices can be paid and reimbursements made timely. I did distribute the department head reports to them today. I will be working on preparing kind of a comprehensive budget adjustment as of the end of the third quarter, and I'll bring that to you at the next meeting. I did include in your packet our comparison reports for the gas tax, cannabis, and lodgers tax. Gas tax, our distribution for the month of March was $11,682. A little less than last year, but that puts us about 3.19% below previous year's gas tax returns. Cannabis tax, we're currently will exceed what we collected last year. We're already exceeding that amount as of the end of the third quarter. So I would probably project that cannabis will come in just over $50,000 at the end of the fiscal year. Lodgers tax, that was one that we talked about earlier. The situation with the lodgers tax was bad the last meeting we talked about it, but then it just kind of got worse with the closure of the motel. It's the Travel Inn, formerly Motel 6, so it's a fairly large establishment. We are concerned that we're currently experiencing about a $34,000 deficit. I won't have the figures for March as of yet, but we're going to have to really monitor that closely. Because as you know, with lodgers tax, it's and we'll look at that on the report here in a minute. The ending cash balance right now in the lodger's tax is $48,643. So we have other commitments that are monthly recurring expenses, such as the billboards. We also have the contract with CCI, and then we also have our staff at the Welcome Center. So we do have those monthly recurring expenses. So as we move forward evaluating the requests from the various nonprofit entities, yeah, there might be some tough decisions that have to be made this year. Unless we know that we've been advised not to come back to the commission to ask for a bailout. But I think the closure of that particular hotel definitely changes our situation. And definitely moving into the new fiscal year, that's something that we will already be cognizant of. So we'll definitely have some of those discussions moving forward. On your financial report, I did highlight for you the variance in the general fund and then the two deposits that's tied to. Overall, our revenue, we're 8/12 into the budget cycle as of the end of February, so we should be about 67% of budget. Our revenues are trending right about 77% of budget, so a lot of that is attributed to the larger distribution that we got for small cities assistance. So that's something we'll look at on our next budget adjustment. With those additional revenues, I think we have some kind of unbudgeted expenses between now and June that we'll need to try to identify and utilize some of those funds to cover that. And then as far as our departmental expenses, we're only about 61% of budget within the general fund, and some of that still needs to be reclassified to various grant funds, such as the Juvenile Justice Coordinator. I currently pay that salary out of our executive line item, but I will reclass it to the grant as we've received those reimbursement requests. So overall, I think we're doing well and we're monitoring everything real close. At the last meeting, I did mention about our gross receipts tax increase going into effect July 1st. I did, just for information purposes, put in, this is the gross receipts tax rate schedule from January to June. So this one doesn't reflect the increase that we're going to see or any other communities. I will share that with you as soon as I receive it. But you can kind of compare where other communities are at in relation to Raton. So it definitely will put us probably in the top 5 or 6 after the increase. But we do anticipate, doing those public service announcements and trying to get the information out to our business community so that come July 1st, everybody's charging the right tax rate. Stand for any questions?
Thank you, Michael.
Do you have any idea with that travel enclosure, their GRT contribution, do we have an idea? What
Yeah, we didn't even touch on that, so I really could not tell you what the GRT component or loss will be from losing that business.
Well, I guess what concerns me historically, sometimes those situations have a domino effect where one closes it.
Sure. And I think that's why our recommendation to the commission is really a flat budget this year. Just kind of taking some of those things into consideration and a little less construction for FY27.
Anything further, Mayor Pro Tem?
Any other comments or questions from the commission?
And to answer the question earlier about the fireworks, we did look at that before the meeting. We don't always know how much the donations will be that we collect. Last year it was probably between $5,000 and $6,000, so that definitely offsets the cost. The community and our businesses are very generous with that. To address the insurance costs, we did reach out to the Municipal League, and they highly discouraged us from adjusting our level of coverage, but said if we're looking to save money, we would probably have to reduce the costs elsewhere. That was just their recommendation. But just so you know, a previous contractor that we had before carried a $10 million policy, so.
And just to restate, the tax increase that we're seeing in GRT is a county increase, not a city increase, but it will affect us.
Correct.
So everyone in the community understands that it was not us increasing taxes.
Yes. Yes, and so we'll, when we get our public service announcements out, we'll make sure to emphasize that.
Thank you. Anything further from the commission?
The only thing, and I know Scott had expressed this to me after last year's display. I don't know if we can address it any, but he had some situations where folks were firing aerials at them.
Now, in addition to his insurance coverage, the city, we also get a special events policy to cover the city, because that is not something that the municipal league insures the city for. So we do seek a policy for ourselves because we are kind of the host of the event. But I think even AJ or Clinton Nicely kind of cautioned us about kind of the higher tort claim limits, and we may still not be adequately covered in the event of an accident.
And I'm just not thinking that it may be worth an effort to increase our patrols a little bit in that area.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that. I can meet with the chief and we can discuss how we can do this safely.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anything further from the commission? Entertain a motion on item
I
8.
move to approve Resolution 2026-17, approval of February 2026 financial reports.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoger and Commissioner Campbell. I have a motion and a second on item H. Any further discussion? All in favor, please vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item I, City Manager Report. Mr. Sagata.
Madam Mayor and Commissioner, since you all are going to continue without the rest of us, I will be as brief as possible on this. As was reported earlier in various reports, we met with the Pickers on the 12th. That was a very, very good meeting. Learned a lot about the tribe and a lot about what they are looking for in this partnership. We have begun negotiations with the Raton Police Department. That should probably carry on for another couple of weeks or so. We'll see how we go there. There is a visit by the New Mexico Municipal League staff scheduled for Thursday. They will be talking with the Raton Waterworks and RPS. They will be discussing with the Waterworks specifically Water Trust Board monies that are available for projects. And then after the meeting in the morning, we will go up to the lake and look at what's going on there now and what needs to go on in the future. In the afternoon, then we will be meeting with RPS to discuss primarily the Burrow Canyon line and what that looks like as an insurance cost to the city and what potentially could happen should a fire break out that. So we'll be discussing that. AJ also mentioned that this past legislative session, there was $650 million allotted for infrastructure projects. So he says to come with a list of infrastructure projects. His goal is to get as much as that spent as he can this year, because next year his ask would be $1 billion for infrastructure. So that is a good thing. Let's talk about the swimming pool real quick. Talking to JR, he says they're up about 1,000 patrons this year compared to last year. That's good. And we are now a Red Cross lifeguard training facility certification, so we can train lifeguards from our spot. While we're on the topic, we are going to replace the sand filters and that, but while the pool is drained, we're going to do an acid wash of the pool itself. It hasn't been done in quite a while. He told me how long the last one was 2018. 2008. I can finally read my notes, yes. They're going to replace 9 grates. They're going to replace the skimmer box covers and repair some of the lights that are out. So while that is going on, and their Easter egg hunt will be April 4th. And there were 18 new bricks laid at Veterans Park. That's all I have, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Sagata. Before we go into executive session, anything further from the commission? Commissioner Hoger, anything you'd like to add tonight?
No.
Thank you. Commissioner Campbell? Thank you. Commissioner Schuster? Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem? Thank you. And I have nothing further to add. So I would entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to 10:15(1H2 Personnel City Manager.
Move to go into closed executive session pursuant to section 10:15(1H2) regarding personnel and city management.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go into closed executive session per the stated statute. Anything further? All those in favor, roll call. Roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Mayor Chatterley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Schuster?
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell?
Yes.
And Commissioner Hoger?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.